Okay, Black women, I've been telling you to quit your toxic jobs. I brought in some reinforcements, okay? We're gonna have a very serious conversation. We're smiling and we're happy to be here, but we're gonna have a very serious conversation about leaving a toxic work environment and healing after the fact, or healing as a part of that. I have a very wonderful guest, so I'm going to introduce myself, I'm going to introduce my wonderful guest, and then I'm going to have her introduce herself, okay? So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie Perry. On this YouTube channel, I help Black women take a sabbatical, move abroad, bop around as a digital nomad, house sit, all while embracing ease. If this sounds good to you, please take a second and hit the subscribe button, please. Please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Ring that notification bell so that you'll be notified when I post a new video or when I go live. Welcome, friends. All right, so I you know, want you to quit your job. I don't think I've been there's no mystery around that. I want you to quit your job. I want all Black women to know the freedom, the peace that comes from having a significant amount of time in your good years, whatever those good years are to you, where you don't have to work, where work is not the center of your life, the focus of your life. But for some of you, this is more than just a would be nice. Right. For some of you, it's leaving work, leaving your job is more than just oh, that would be great. It is crucial to your well-being. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We have with us Dr. Kimani Norrington-Sands. Dr. Kimani is a licensed clinical psychologist. I told you I brought in the big guns, okay? So we're going to talk today about leaving toxic workplaces and healing. We're going to talk about what that can look like for you in and also what that looked like for Dr. Kimani. Welcome, Dr. Kimani.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much for saying yes. So we are part of a movement, you and I, we're part of a movement
Yes.
giving Black women a new way of doing things. So can you give us a better introduction of yourself than I just did?
Sure. My name is Dr. Kimani Norrington-Sands. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, licensed in California. And I've just learned from my own personal experiences in a toxic job and helping other Black women that there's another way for us to be, right? And that these jobs are literally killing us physically, spiritually, mentally, and that there's another way. There's a way out. And so I've pivoted my work to really focus on helping Black women leave toxic jobs so they can live a more fulfilling, abundant life. So I'm all about that.
Yes, it's possible. Okay.
It is
Right.
possible. I'm a testimony to that.
You are. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you said that you pivoted into this being your focus. How did that happen and when?
Yeah. So I officially left my toxic job in July 2022. And it was a long process. And I've been doing videos on my YouTube channel, Lifting Us with Climb Consulting Wellness Services, for over a year now, talking about my own healing journey because I knew as I was going through it that I needed to process it, right? So I needed to talk about it. And my hope was that by me sharing my own healing journey, that I was helping other Black women. And so more Black women kept reaching out to me. Thank you for having these conversations. We're supporting you. And when I finally left the toxic job, just a lot of people came and just said, thank you. You know, we appreciate you, congratulate you for leaving, right? So we know that you can lead and you can thrive. And so my mission is to really talk to Black women about you deserve better,
Yes.
that you can survive a toxic job. I think, I'm with you, in terms of leaving, right? Some people try to figure out how to stay and stick it out, but I'm from the perspective of you can't heal in an environment that's harming you. So I'm really trying to help Black women get in a position so they're ready to leave. Because when you're at a toxic job, as Anne Marie Archer talked about, it's a form of trauma.
Yep.
It's a workplace trauma, right?
Yep.
When we go through a sense of trauma, it takes a while for us to, really connect to that and heal from that. Because as Black women, just think about the messages that we're taught as Black women. We keep going, we fight, we don't have people run us out, right? That we're, you're not going to, get me out of this good job with all these benefits. But then you have to think about what are the benefits of that if the job is killing you? There's no benefit of that. And Dr. Nadia Lopez talked about, why are we killing ourselves for jobs that would not grieve for us at our grave?
No,
And that's so true. Yeah.
that's
So
right.
that's my mission, is to really help Black women, number one, to see that you can leave and you can thrive. And my mission also is, how do we confront those fears about leaving
Hmm.
so you can move, right? Because a lot of times fear is what keeps us at these jobs, right? So it's the fear of, okay, well, if I leave, will I be able to find another job? If I leave, I have bills to pay. What's going to happen? Or let me say with the devil I know than the devil I don't know.
Right. Now, so can we define toxic job? I think that
Yeah.
a lot of times for Black women, we get the messaging that this is just how jobs are, and this is just how
Hmm.
things are supposed. This is how things are going to be wherever you are, and so it may not
Yeah.
be easy to spot like this is a toxin. This is actually harmful to me. So, what are we talking
Yeah.
about here in terms of
Yeah.
what does it look like and feel like?
Yeah. Well, for each person it's different, but I would say any environment where you're experiencing some type of psychological harm, right? Where it's causing, issues in terms of how you view yourself, sadness, anxiety. I used to have a sense of dread going to work. I had difficulty sleeping, like the thought of going to work at any place where you don't feel respected or affirmed. That's a loose definition of toxicity, but again, it's really dependent upon what your experience is like. And I think as Black women, we have to really step out of that. Yes, that's the way work has been for many of us,
Hmm.
but we can redefine that, right? We're in a different age now. Well, we have a lot of options. So we don't have to stay at these toxic jobs. And I think a lot of times our parents or other people around us from a different generation will say, you need to stay there. You need to stay until you retire. You need to get that pension. You need to stay for those benefits. But I think right now a lot of Black women are saying, no, I deserve better than that. And I don't want to die, or I don't want my job to define who I am and
Right.
how I live.
That's right. So you talked about toxic, what a toxic situation can feel like, being sadness, anxiety, a sense of
Mhm.
dread, right? Because,
Yes.
dreading having to go to work. For years, I was a credit analyst at a bank, and part of my
Hmm.
job was to lower customers' credit lines on their credit cards while they were on the phone with me. They would call in for a credit
Mm.
increase. I would look at their credit report, and my job was to lower their credit line while they were on the phone. The job
Wow.
itself, like the manager, the supervisor, my teammates, they were pretty cool. But the
Hmm.
job was awful. And every day I would wake up mad that I woke up because I
Ooh,
have to go to work,
now
right?
that's deep.
And
That's deep.
it felt pretty normal, right? I was like, oh,
Wow.
everybody's mad that they woke up. And then one day I was like, you know what? I should not be upset that I even woke up today
Yes.
just because of this.
Yes.
There are situations
Yes.
that we sometimes like settle into, we can get accustomed to and don't realize that it's a
Yeah.
toxin, it's harmful.
Yeah, it's toxic in that way that you're not growing. But a lot of times, what happens in jobs and what the research shows is that Black women experience higher rates of workplace trauma. So, workplace bullying or just negative work environments. So, that's something that is very common for us as Black women. And I think coupled with that is, we may see certain things, but we might feel that we cannot say something because there might be retaliation.
Yeah.
And many times there is, right? So that is a very reality based observation that
Mhm.
there is retaliation and deciding, okay, so what do I do next? And I think that's what trips us up is that we get stuck.
So
We
you
get
told
stuck. We want to leave, we get stuck.
Yeah, you told us that this became your lane because of your own
Hmm.
individual situation. A lot of women who
Yes.
work in the helper jobs, right? A lot of women who work in the fields of therapy and psychology
Hmm.
and social work and even healthcare
Hmm.
find
Hmm.
themselves in toxic situations and think, well, but the job is so important. The work that I do is so important
Hmm. Hmm.
that I'm
Hmm.
going to have to just bear
Yes.
the bad stuff that's happening.
Yes.
What does that
Yes.
look
And
like
that's a
for you?
challenge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like so, and I say to a lot of Black women that it's a process. So it's generally not like one day you wake up like I hate this job, I'm out of here, right? because a lot of times when we come into jobs, we're very committed to the work. So I used to work with children, very committed to the work I was doing, right? Loved a lot of the work that I was doing. But in terms of how I was being treated, I was being harmed in the process of trying to help other people,
Yeah.
right? So it just doesn't make any sense that I'm being harmed, but I'm trying to help other people.
Mhm.
But I still tried to push through because I was like, I'm still trying to help. I'm still going to push through it. But it gets to a certain point, I think, for Black women, for us to say, you know what, enough is enough. And I stayed because I was trying to convince people of my worth,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
People who are not even worthy, but I'm trying to convince them of my worth to do the work. But I think also when we think about that, it doesn't matter what job. I think it's an additional
Right.
issue when you're in the helping profession. But what I've experienced is that it's Black women across professions.
Yeah.
They're experiencing this level of toxicity that makes them question themselves in terms of why did I even go into this field? Or why am I doing this? Or questioning their own abilities. So
Right.
then it starts making you question yourself, which is very unhealthy.
What did it look like for you? What did yeah, what did the day look like for you?
Oh God. So I would wake up. Well, first of all, Sunday night was miserable for me
Yeah.
because I knew I had to go back to the job, right? And then every day it was just a chore getting out of bed. My husband literally had to talk me out of the bed. I
Mhm.
would get out of the bed, but I knew I had to maintain a routine because I'm also a mother. So I wanted my kids to see me okay, right? So I have to kind of mask. And a lot of Black women talk about this masking as they go into work, because I've heard Black women talk about crying, like literally crying on their way to work,
Mhm.
and then kind of pulling it together, masking all day at work, and then having work define themselves in their lives. And I knew that that was not what I wanted for myself.
Mhm.
And I think for me, in terms of my own journey, it just became more and more ridiculous. So I'll just tell like just little tidbits in terms of my own story, right? So I was working for a school district. And, you know, when George Floyd was murdered, there was this interest in anti-racism work, right? And so, like, people just realized racism just existed.
Yes.
So there was all this energy in it. And I was asked to come in to do a lot of anti-racism work, which I did do. And then over time, what I noticed was that it was very much performative diversity work. It was not true investment in diversity work.
Right.
And at a certain point, just certain things would happen. Like I would go to meetings, and I was told I could not say anything in the meeting. Like I couldn't introduce myself, I couldn't do anything, none of that, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it got to the point where I would do things like I would develop or co-develop a training that they had never had. And the department that I was working under would not support the training, but other departments throughout the district would support the training,
Yeah.
right? And then I was told that the reason that that department didn't support the training was that I presented it, that it was my training, even though I developed it or co-developed it, right? So
Mhm.
just stuff like that, right? And then eventually I was demoted, right? And so I was doing all this extra work, and then I was told, oh, you know, your position is no longer a full-time position, and just out of the blue, just demoted. And I was demoted to my entry level position. So people I was previously supervising or providing trainings, now they were over me, right?
Mhm.
And there was no positions for me to grow, right? I was told you could only do this,
Yeah.
and we're just going to box you in. So there, I was not growing at all. And just a level of disrespect, you know, in terms of how people talk to me, um, yelling or ignoring or things like that. It just became too much. And it got to the point where, you know, many times I was working, and I've been very vocal that I'm really supporting the needs for Black children, you know, in addition to all children, but Black children in particular. And whenever I would say that, it was the message was, well, we're here for all people. And I said, well, I'm here for all people. I don't know what gave you the message that I'm not here for Black kids too. But what I noticed happening was that even, you know, so when George Floyd died, then it was like this, oh, let's do things for Black people. So then when there was money available to support Black students, I was told I could have no involvement in that program at all,
Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
I was just going to go back to my entry level position and do something that I had outgrown many, many, many years past, right? So I knew it was time to move on. And I just knew I wasn't growing, and I knew that I didn't respect the people who were in supervisory positions. And I felt like, why am I giving my power away to people who I don't trust or respect?
That's right.
And I'm not growing.
That's right.
I'm not growing. It's not why I became a psychologist.
Was this done, like, was this gradual? How long were you on that job?
Oh gosh, I think I was there for about 13 years before I took a leave.
Okay.
And I took a leave for about a year. And during that year, I started exit planning, right? Because I knew basically I didn't want to go back, right? And just like I tell Black women that it's a process. So it took me about 3 years. I knew at least 3 years ago that I wanted out of this job,
Okay.
right? But I felt that if I left, then what happens to the Black kids? What happens to the Black staff? What happens, right? So that sense of investment, but it was killing me.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
can we talk about the 3-year planning process?
Mhm.
What did you need to get in place before you felt ready to walk out the door?
Yes. So let me say this too. Something that informed the need to leave was that I noticed that a lot of Black women around my age or age group were dying,
Right.
literally dying, right? And it was they were dying and or they would get like cancer, strokes, heart attacks. And there weren't that many Black people at the job. So that was a wake up call to me. Okay.
Right.
So when I realized I cannot go back here, I was so unhappy, and it was correlated with other things happening in my personal life too. So during my personal life, I was going through the worst period of my life where my son was going through a bullying issue at another school,
Mm.
and that devastated our whole family, right? So I'm dealing with that personal trauma coupled with this trauma. And so that's when I knew I couldn't stay here because the workplace trauma was mirroring the school bullying trauma that my son was experiencing, right? And so, number one, I took a leave because I knew I couldn't stay there and I knew that I could not effectively heal or exit plan while I was still there,
Right.
right? So that was number one. I took a leave. Well, I took a leave. I got involved in coaching programs because I was trying to figure out, okay, so what do I need to do? How can I pivot? So I got involved in a coaching program with a Black woman, Dr. TK, who helps other Black clinicians. So from there, I started seeing people for private practice, right? Through telehealth, because this is during COVID. So it's like the timing was aligned because people are now talking about mental health and, we all need that support. So I just started seeing Black clients through telehealth. And
Okay.
it just grew from there, right? And then people started reaching out to me for speaking opportunities and trainings. And it just evolved from there. And then once I got things together, I was like, I don't need to go back there. Why would I go back there?
Yeah.
And I think the deciding moment, Stephanie, was my children when I was on leave. One of my sons said, are you going back to that job? And I said, I don't know, I'm trying to figure things out. And he said, Mom, please don't go back there. Please don't go back there. You were so unhappy. Don't go back there. And that was one of the things, right? But the true deciding factor, two things. I was on my way to the doctor's office to get another medical excuse in terms of to extend my leave.
Hmm.
And I was in the parking lot and I started crying profusely, right? And it felt like the inner little girl within me was saying, please don't make me go back there.
Right.
Please don't go back, make me go back there, right?
Right.
And then soon after that, I was in the shower. I started having profuse nosebleeds. I had never had nosebleeds ever in my life, right? Profuse nosebleeds. And then one day I'm in the shower and I heard the voice of God say to me, if you go back to that job, that's a death sentence.
Hmm.
That was it.
Hmm.
That was it, right? And then I, submitted my letter of resignation. It was such a weight that had been lifted off of me because even though I was on leave, I still had that feeling
Red.
I'm still tied to this place,
Yeah.
or these people who have harmed me still have some control over my life. And I didn't want that anymore. I wanted total liberation,
That's right.
right? And so when I left, it was fearful, right? My mother was like, don't do it, don't do it. And that's a whole nother thing, right? Mothers telling you don't leave.
Okay.
But I left.
Okay. Yes. I think some of the older generation is attached to a job, especially a good job, right? But there
Yes.
are a lot
A
of people.
so-called good job, right?
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But I think a lot else there's also a lot of the older generation who knew that the situation was messed up and was like, I wouldn't have
Hmm.
stayed here if I didn't feel like I had to, right? Had to. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have stayed here, and I don't want you to stay there either. I think sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes we hear from women who expect to hear from their parents or their older family members, right? They expect to hear from them. You can't leave. You have to stay. Just wait till retirement. Just hang in there, right? And the
Hmm.
message that they really get is, "Girl, go. If you can, leave." Right? I wish I
Yeah.
had left. I want you to go. I think sometimes it's important to have the conversation, even if it's not going to make or break your decision. Do you,
Yeah, and I think that, like what you said, is so important is that as Black women, we have to know what we need for ourselves. My aunt told me, nobody else is living your life,
that's
right?
right.
And I think sometimes as Black women, we might have supportive family members who say, "Go." We want. My mother was not that way. My mother was very much, you stay there, you stick it out. And even when I told her, I hate this place is killing me, she didn't understand, right? So what I had to do was I just didn't tell her. I
Okay.
just didn't tell her when I left, right? And literally, Stephanie, I left in July. I just had this conversation with my mom last month about leaving.
Oh, so you mean you just told her last month in
Yeah,
December?
yeah,
Okay, that's one way to
yeah,
do it, right? That is a way.
yeah.
If you
I was
know
like,
that,
I don't need to hear the extra,
that's right,
right? Because I know what my life is and I know what's best for me and
right.
my family. Right.
Add
Yeah.
add into your, she would just add to your stress and give you
Yes.
a little extra fear
Yes.
for your for your
Yes.
trouble.
I don't need extra fear.
No,
No.
no. Okay, so you looked around, you saw that this place is going to kill you, right? This place is not
Yeah.
it's not worth trying to figure out a different way, trying to find a way to
Yeah.
cope and try to negotiate XYZ. It's
Yeah.
this is a
And let me just say this too, because I think a lot of Black women fall into this trap is that, when we're in these toxic jobs, we feel that we're going to try this, then we'll try that, then we'll try this to make it better. But you have to recognize that the whole system is toxic. So
mm,
it's not just one or two people, it's the whole system.
mm,
And then when you recognize that people who are not invested in really being truthful,
right.
they're going to lie to you, right? So you'll just keep trying to get clarity and you're going nowhere. You go down these rabbit holes and you're kind of running around in a circle.
That's
And
right.
you have to recognize when it's time to just stop.
Hmm.
Stop. And my friends had to tell me to stop, Stephanie. I probably would have just kept going on, right?
Oh,
Because I'm so loyal and so committed that my friends, I had two really good women friends. I hate the word, Black women friends. And they said, Kamani, stop. Stop. We need you to stop right now. Stop trying to convince them of your worth. They're not worthy of you. You have to go. And I needed that because I would have just kept on.
had you been fully sharing with your friends? Did they know the whole story, or
They
had you been
did.
holding back? Okay, good. Because
They did.
some people will hold back. They won't tell the whole story because they know how bad, right? How bad it really is. And so there's no one on your side. I think a lot of women would have more people on the side of them leaving if they were a little
Hmm.
more open, or if they had someone who they could be a little more open with about how bad the situation is. Rashida and I
Yeah.
interviewed some women 3 years ago. We did a series of interviews where we interviewed 12 Black women who had taken a career break. And quite a few of them said it was their doctor or their therapist who advised them to take either a career break or just quit. And it was because
Yeah.
they're the ones who know the whole story. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to really, that's why I'm doing these YouTube interviews, right? So I want to be open about it because I want other Black women to know you're not alone. And we need to talk about it because we deserve better environment. So if you want to do something on your own, that's great. If you want to go into another job, that's great too. But you don't deserve to be somewhere where you're being mistreated,
Yeah.
right? And then my role is kind of help you guide through that process so you can release all the garbage, the grief, right? So leaving a job, even a toxic job, there's a level of grief involved. And I know I had to go through my own grief process. I've talked about it on my YouTube channel. It's a grief process because there's so much invested when we come into jobs.
So what were you grieving? The loss of the title, or the what were you grieving?
I was grieving the dreams that I had about the job. I was grieving because when I came into the job, it was very different than how I left it, right? So
Mhm.
when I came into the job, I had very supportive supervisors,
Okay.
two Black women, fabulous, right? It was a wonderful experience. When they left, when they retired, I knew. I was like, oh no, I think I'm going to be in trouble, right? Because there was nobody there to really protect me, okay? And so loss of that in terms of how things used to be when I saw things in terms of how they could be, a loss in terms of the dreams that I had about what I could do with that job. I had to give that up.
Mhm.
The loss or the grief of those who I trusted at the job, who betrayed me or who did not have my back. So when I was going through all that, they were nowhere to be found, okay, or who actually did things to go against me,
Mhm.
right? And even those, I've met a lot of wonderful people at that job.
Mhm.
So knowing that we would not be in relationship like that anymore, okay? So there was a lot of grief in relation to all of that experience, but it was important for me to go through that grief. So now that I'm open to the last stage of grief is acceptance. And now I'm accepting, like, okay, that needed to happen to get me out of that job because I wasn't growing. Besides, I wasn't unhappy. I was not growing.
Mhm.
And now I'm walking more aligned with my purpose. So that needed to happen, right? Even though I would never say thank you to those people who did those cruel things to me,
That's
right? I would
right.
never say thank you. However, I know that was part of God's plan to get me to where I'm at now.
All right. So that was you left it. Your last day there was in July. This is
Uh-huh.
January. So do you feel like you're finished with grieving and it's time to move through?
No, no. And that's why I tell Black women too, is that healing is an ongoing process,
Mhm.
right? And grieving is an ongoing process too, just like when you lose someone, right? So you go through different stages of grief, but you can go back and forth. It's not linear.
Okay.
And I would say the same for me too. You know, some days I still am angry about things that have happened. You know, I'm angry about, I'll just give one quick example. I went to a training, and there was a man giving the training, and he said, okay, I'm going to show a video about a paradoxical intervention. So just watch the intervention and we'll talk after. So it was just me and another Black woman in the training. And he's showing this video of his father, who's a therapist, and it's a Black boy he's talking to. The therapist is not Black.
Okay.
And the therapist says to the Black boy, why are you so dumb? How did you become so stupid? How did that happen? Right? And so I'm sitting in the chair mortified, right? So then he brings in the boy's mother and he says to the boy's mother, um, how'd you raise such a dumb child? How'd you do that? You know, because he's going to end up going to juvenile detention. You know what happens in juvenile detention to boys? They're going to end up getting raped and all. And I'm like, dying inside, right? So I look at my phone. The other Black woman in the room is texting me. She's like, I'm being triggered right now.
Mhm.
And I said, I am too. I'm going to say something, right? So when he finishes showing the video, he's really proud of what he showed, right? He's like so proud. And so he said thoughts. So I raised my hand and I said, that was very offensive, and I think that that was very harmful for for that therapist to do that to that Black boy, given the racism in society and blah, blah. So he says, you're not paying attention to the intervention. I told you to focus on the intervention. It's a paradoxical intervention. Culture has nothing to do with it. And I said, culture has everything to do with it. Racism has everything to do with it because racism permeates all of our society, right? So, Stephanie, it was so weird. It was like just me and him in the room, but there was other people witnessing, right? And so then he doubles down. He says, well, a Black man from the South saw this and he was fine with it. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, all Black people are not the same. And maybe that person was struggling with internalized racism, but I still am telling you it's offensive. So he's trying to engage with me. And I said, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm telling you that was offensive.
Mhm.
And Stephanie, not one person had my back.
Mhm.
Not one person during that whole exchange
Uh-huh.
said anything, supported me whatsoever. And then we go out for break. People are coming up to me. I'm so glad you said
Right.
something. I'm
Right.
so glad you said something, right? Nobody said anything. And then I told people who had contracted this person at my job, nobody did anything about it. right? And they still contracted with this person to do consultation calls. I refused to do it, but it was that type of energy, right? So even when I think about that, even when I talk about it right now, it makes me angry,
Yeah.
right? Not as angry, but it does make me angry. And so I want to just tell Black women, when you go through the grief process, things might come up, but it comes easier to talk about as you
Okay.
go over it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, some women who are in these kinds of situations, right, who have these exact situations where they have to address something at work that is not their, should not be their responsibility to address, and then they're
Hmm.
hung out to dry, and no one has their
Hmm.
back, and no one
Yeah,
is being any kind of support at all. A lot of those women then just check out at work,
yeah,
right? Still
yeah.
go, still do, but just check out of things. Is that not a good solution? Is that not is that not a path?
Well, I wouldn't say it's good because everybody's different, right? And so I don't want to dictate for anybody what you do what's best for you, but are you okay with that, right? And if you don't say anything, are you okay with that? I know for me, I'm not okay with that, right? That's just how I was brought up, right? I'm not okay. So if I see something wrong, I'm going to say something because by me not saying something, I feel like I'm not honoring myself,
That's right.
okay?
That's
So
right.
it's different for different people, but I think most Black women are saying this stuff. We don't say things out of fear. We're fearful of what might happen if we do. We might talk about it separately with each other or at home or things like that. But when we see things like that happening over and over again, that becomes traumatic for us as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So even if we may not be experiencing it, it's harmful to see other people going through it or people having that certain perspective.
And then these are the things that lead to the anxiety and the dread and the nosebleeds and the right. So, you talked about how now what the work that you're doing is much more aligned and much more healthy for you, not toxic.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about what you do now.
Yes. So I do have a private practice where I would say the vast majority of my clients are Black women, and I love all my clients. So it's awesome because I'm able to talk to them, but like sister to sister, right? So I'm like, girl, what? Right? So we're able to have those kind of conversations. So I love that. But also being able to connect to Black women who are in similar toxic situations at the job. And I might be able to say to them, there is a way out. You are not alone, sis. You deserve better. I can help you get out,
Yeah.
right? So I kind of feel that, when I was at the job, I used to call myself Harriet Tubman, right? I felt like I had this allegiance to Harriet Tubman because I was fighting for the rights of Black children
Mhm.
when Black children weren't being affirmed, right? So I felt then I was like Harriet Tubman, but it's disturbing to think that at a job you have to think of yourself as Harriet
That's
Tubman.
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? That you're thinking that you're like the Underground Railroad. That's problematic, right? So now I'm like, okay, but you don't deserve my energy. But now I view myself in a different capacity as a Harriet because I'm helping other Black women find their way out, right? So I see myself as like a conductor, right? I'm helping you get out of these toxic jobs so you can transition to whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to, again, go to another job or if you want to do your own thing, but I'm here to help you out, but I'm here to help you with the healing part of it,
Yeah.
right? Because as you're going through this, you are experiencing so much harm, right? So the harm could play out in different ways. Like I said, questioning yourself, questioning if you have the ability to leave, being crippled by fear, like I can't leave because I'm so crippled by fear, and or the grief that I talked to you about before, right? So we have to process all of that so we have the clarity and like, oh, what is it that I want to do now, right? And we have the presence and the state of mind so we're not taking all that garbage, all that trauma and drama from the previous place to our next opportunity. So that's what I'm focusing now in my coaching program, and that gives me joy,
Yes.
right, to know that I'm helping other Black women.
All right. So not everybody watching here can become your therapy client, right?
Right.
Because you have so much therapists have only so much capacity for clients for therapy, but you do help women in a different way. So let's talk
Yes.
about your coaching program.
Yes. And also the benefit of the coaching program is that I'm able to serve Black women anywhere,
Yeah.
right? So as a therapist, I can only work with you in California because I'm licensed to California. So this gives me, greater leeway. And, and the coaching program is a group coaching program. So I've run other groups about other issues. And what I've found is that when you're in a group or community or sisterhood of women, Black women, it gives you that sense of, oh, other people have my back, other people understand my experience, and learning from each other,
Yeah.
right? So the coaching program is online, of course, because we all can't meet at the same place, right? But it's online and it's 5 sessions in which we go over different areas that I just talked about, right? So in terms of really coming to that connection and confronting your fear, because again, I did a survey on LinkedIn and Black women said, fear is what keeps me at this job.
Right.
That's the only thing, fear. Okay. So addressing and confronting your fears, also really looking at, what is your grief process in terms of the job, like I talked about before, and recognizing why do I even feel grief? Like some people might feel like, why do I feel any type of grief about this job, right?
Uh-huh.
It's
They were the
reality.
worst. Why am I not only jumping for joy? Why do I feel
Why
so
am I
many
not?
mixed? Mm-hmm.
Exactly, exactly. And part of the grief too, which I didn't talk about, is self-forgiveness, right? So I forgive myself for staying at that job and being disrespected for so long because of fear. I forgive myself for that, right? But that took a process too, okay? And then how do we get to the space where once you've dealt with all that healing, right? Which is, the coaching program starts the process. It's an ongoing process, okay? And then once you get to that place, how can you start exit planning, right? Exit planning is so important that you start off early. I tell every Black woman, I don't expect you to leave today or tomorrow unless the job is killing you, literally, right? Like if you are physically, psychologically, you need to leave, okay? But if it's not, let's come up with an exit plan and let's kind of strategize. And then what is your wellness plan to sustain you as you're going through this process, right? Because it's not easy. It's very painful sometimes. So what is your wellness plan to help you as you go through this, right? Because there's light on the other end,
Yeah.
right? And I'm here to show you there's light on the other end,
Yeah.
right? I'm so much better for it. And I think actually as Emery Archer talked about this too, that her life is exponentially better
Right.
since she left her toxic job. And I can definitely vouch for that as well.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about fear in just a second, but first I want to talk more about your coaching program. But I think that there's like we totally underestimate how good the good can be.
Yes,
We underestimate what
yes,
could possibly happen if we just put ourselves in a place to get the good, leave the bad.
yes.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your coaching program. We're of course going to link to Dr. Kimani's coaching program in the description of this video. But how
Mhm.
does a woman know if she's ready? Does she need to be already ready already, right? Does she need to be ready to
Yes,
go to start working with you?
yes,
If she's already
yes.
ready to go, is it too late for her to start working with you? Who makes a
Mhm.
good client?
Okay, so thank you, Stephanie. So, perfect candidate for the group is a Black woman who is ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, this is not a coaching program for Black women who are like, oh, I'm trying to stick it out for a couple of more years. Can you kind of can you give me some coping strategies to how to stay here?
Okay.
This is not the coaching program for you, okay? This is for Black women who are highly motivated to lead, okay? They are good in terms of being around other Black women and giving them feedback, okay? And they're willing to put the work in,
Okay.
okay? So that's you're the ideal candidate. If you're not quite ready, if you're thinking like, I don't know right now because I'm so overwhelmed by this dang job.
Yeah.
I'm so stressed out,
Yeah.
right? I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even get my thoughts straight right now. I feel so disconnected from myself because of this dang job. Then I have something else for you, right? So I remember when I was in that stage as well, when I was going through the toxic job, that I felt so disconnected and so lost that I came up with a roadmap for myself, right? And so I'm offering the roadmap also for Black women. It's called the Welcome to Your Queendom Digital Fillable Workbook. And it's a way to help Black women reconnect to yourself so you're able to identify this is what I want for myself, right? These are the dreams that I have for myself. These are the circle of people who I need around me. These are the joyful things I want to incorporate more into my life, right? So it kind of helps you give more of a foundation so that you can eventually go to the coaching program, right? So if you're in that stage where you're overwhelmed, like, I don't even know, I've got an option for you. And if you're a Black woman who's like, you know what, I'm ready to go, But the group thing doesn't quite work for me. I want more individualized attention. Then we can work one to one as well.
Okay. All right. So I think you're totally right about women being ready to take some action. Sometimes when you've been in a toxic situation and you don't feel any agency over yourself, you don't think that you
Mhm.
have the power, right?
Yes, yes,
It's really, and you've had years of not feeling like you have the power. It's really hard
yes.
to take any action. And so what you're
Hmm.
saying that she needs to be willing to put in some work and willing to make a move, that's an
Yes.
important distinction. I think
Hmm.
probably women who are watching this video, if you've gotten to the point where you are willing to click on and watch this video, you're probably willing to take some action. But there are some women who just are at a point where they feel helpless and
Yes.
feel like they have no power, no control, and would not benefit
Hmm.
from a group coaching program like this. They would need some more
Right.
intensive, a different type of help, a different type.
Yes. Or you might need, like I said, the workbook to help you connect to yourself, right? So you have that sense of, okay, I'm more settled in myself because that helplessness, hopelessness can be so overwhelming. I remember that feeling. It is horrible. It
Yes.
is absolutely horrible. And that feeling makes you feel lost, right? And so that's why I developed the roadbook for myself, right? To help me get out. And I'm my perspective, Stephanie, and I think your perspective too, because I've been watching you for so long, is you're all about helping Black women,
Yes.
right? I'm all about it too, right? And I think we go about it in different ways, but I believe, and I wouldn't be here without other Black women, right? I'm standing on shoulders of outstanding Black women, but I know that I have to reach back and help other Black women as I'm moving forward, right? So the name of my company, Lifting Us with Climb Consulting, I'm reaching back to help other Black women, right? And, just in terms of sisterhood and the power of sisterhood, I'm a Spelman alum, and just that strong belief in sisterhood, I'm all about it, right? And if I can help another Black woman, I'm here to help you.
I've never told you this. I was at Spelman 92 to 93 just for 1 year. So we had a little overlap, but we just didn't know each other because
Yeah.
I didn't go to class, frankly. So we would never have seen each other. If you weren't in the freshman dorm or at the party, at the freshman parties, we would not have seen each other. But I was there briefly, very, very briefly.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. But it's just amazing. And I was telling my guest last week, or earlier this week, is that I'm so thankful to my family for giving me that foundation, right? And kind of helping me ground myself in my greatness and knowing that I deserve better,
That's right.
right? Because I think when you don't have that and you go into a toxic job, it can really take you out,
Yes.
right? Because you're defining yourself about the job. You're getting this negative feedback. You feel like you don't have an outlet, right? But when you come from a strong foundation, you know you deserve better. It helps you say, no, I'm not tolerating this. No, I'm not backing down, right? No, I will not be silent. And I'm just thinking about Fannie Lou Hamer, right? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's what I'm gonna do about it,
Yeah.
right? And so I remember that. And I feel like that's my mission. That's part of my purpose
Yeah.
in terms of now I'm aligned with my purpose in terms of helping other Black women out of situations that you might feel stuck in. There's a way out.
Yeah, I'm also glad that you talked about the clarity that your workbook helps women get to. Again, Dr.
Hmm.
Kimani's workbook is called Welcome to Your Queendom, and that, of course, is
Hmm.
linked in the description of this video. All right, so clarity. Sometimes a person who is not yet ready to act and doesn't really feel a sense of agency over her life, once she gets a little kernel of clarity, just one thing that she wants, all of a sudden it's go time, you know?
Yes.
So having something that can help work women through that process is really, it's really awesome because
Yeah.
the, once the decision is made, and I think you've already talked about how it was for you. Once the decision is made, then it's let's just take some action and get there. Maybe get some
Yeah.
support and get some help.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to get up to that line, to that starting line,
Yes.
when you don't really
Yes.
know what you want, you don't know how to get it, and, all of
Yeah. And I think, really confronting your fears head on. Alicia Renese talks about this all the time, right? And I had her on a guest too, that sometimes I think she talked about fear becoming the cost for your freedom and your dreams.
right.
And I was like, no, not for me. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember hearing and knowing of Black women at that job where they literally talked about giving their all to the job and literally losing themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like, this job is not worth it.
No.
It is really not worth it, right?
Yeah.
No way. You're not gonna take
No.
me out.
No, indeed. No, even Les, I used to always say that I don't want to die at work. Yeah, I'm not dying at work. Listen,
For real.
or
Right.
from work. No, indeed.
And just think about, Stephanie, like what our ancestors had to go through for us to
That's
be
right.
here right now, right?
That's
And, to me, I feel like I am giving honor to them by saying no more,
hmm
that is by saying I deserve better and getting that better and helping other Black women get that better,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
I feel in that way I'm giving honor to our ancestors as well.
So let's talk about a couple of different fears. A couple of different fears. So there is the fear
Yeah.
of I'm going to leave and I'm walking. You remember the Truman Show, right? He's leaving this whole his
Oh,
whole
yeah.
life was a show, and
Yeah,
then he
yeah, yeah, yeah.
standing on this edge. Now what? I'm just on the edge
Now
of this.
what?
That is, I think, what a lot of women feel when they're leaving
Yeah.
work that they've done for so long. Like,
Yeah.
it's just really, really scary. So there's that fear,
It
and
is
then there's
scary.
also the fear of, or I don't know, maybe it's not a fear, but the feeling of I'm too tired to figure it out. I don't. That's not
Hmm.
fear, but like I am too worn down, burned out, exhausted to even
Yeah.
figure out what's next. It's really just easier to keep picking up one foot after the other here than it is to
Yes.
figure out a new direction.
Yeah, I got so many other stresses in my life. I'm so beat down by so many other things. I just want to stay what I'm used to or what kind of know or can navigate, right? And I'll try to tell Black women that, I completely understand all of it, right? The part of it too is there's things that we have, there's skills that you have at that job that you can take somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, it's a process in terms of starting to explore those different things,
hmm
right? Or I've heard this one too, Stephanie. Um, I can't leave because I've invested too much here, right? Or I'm getting good benefits. And I'm like, okay, I don't quite get that, but okay, that's where some people are, right? But knowing that you do have options and being able to say, okay, let's identify what our options are at this point and what are the next steps in terms of further exploring those options. And I would say this too, a caution to Black women: if you're in a toxic job, as you're starting to explore your options or the frustration, please be mindful of who you tell at the job.
Uh,
Please be very mindful of that, right? Because I know what I've experienced is that I have said things that ends up going to people that I didn't want it to go to,
okay.
right? Because there are people who I thought I could trust or whatever, whatever, right?
Okay.
So be very, very mindful of who you share. I would say, preferably don't talk to people at your job about what your next plans are,
Okay.
right? Because you're trying to get out. You never know about people's motives or anything like that. Okay. So do that. The other thing is start interviewing people, other women, connecting to people like on LinkedIn. Like I've connected to so many people on LinkedIn. If you have people who have similar interests in you, similar fields, start connecting to them. Ask them what their job is. And then again, start exploring what your options are. Because I think what's happening is we get in this tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And the tunnel vision reminds me very much of depression, right?
Yes.
The tunnel vision is it's black or white. I have no other options.
Yeah.
You do have options. You
Yes.
do.
Yeah, it surprises me sometimes when I do a different type of coaching, right? I coach women about house sitting, right? And it surprises me how many women who have already made the decision to leave their thing behind, their career, whatever the
Hmm.
job was or the career behind. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh, then, but it was a total waste. I'm like, no, like you did the job. I had a woman who was a doctor say that to Dr. Kimani, and I'm like, somebody's alive today, I'm pretty sure, because of what you
Yes.
did.
Yes.
That time that you spent was not a total waste. I hope that,
Yes.
and so a lot of women think that closing one door is like setting fire to everything that has ever taken place beforehand. No, it's just a
Yeah.
new path, a new journey, right? We're always
Yes.
growing. Every round goes higher, higher. We are going to meet
Yes.
a lot of different people over the course of our lives. We're going to have
Absolutely.
and so the fear of letting go of a job sometimes is the fear, I think, is the fear of like everything having been meaningless then.
Yes. And that's part of the acceptance part of the grief process,
Yeah.
right? So for me, the acceptance is I'm leaving, but I'm so proud of the work that I've done. I'm
Yes.
so proud of what I was able to accomplish. I'm so proud that I spoke up about these different things. I'm so proud of the people I've met, all these different things, and being okay with that and recognizing that job was in my life for a season,
Mhm.
and now that season's over,
Over.
right? It's
It's
over.
over.
You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
just it doesn't serve me anymore. I just think about there's a song from Beautiful Chorus. They talk about I release, right?
Okay.
So I'm releasing those things that no longer serve me. I'm releasing those things that no longer work for me, right? And
Yes.
we have to recognize that we have to release those things that are harming us.
Hmm.
So a toxic job can harm us, and we see, and I don't know if you've already seen this, Stephanie, but the research shows that Black women are now dying at earlier ages
Yes.
because of issues of racism, all these different things, right?
Hmm.
Including toxic jobs. And I just feel like you said, a job is not going to take me out. So as Black women, we have to recognize that, our life means something,
Yes.
right? And we
Yes.
think about also, it's not only the toxic job is impacting us as an individual, it's impacting all those who care about us,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
Dr. Nadia Lopez talked about that. She talked about the toll that that toxic job had on her mother and her daughter,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't just impact us, it impacts her whole family. And it's like, is it worth it? You're working to provide security, but if you're no longer there,
What was the whole point? What was it all for? So you said the understanding that our life means something. I think that
yes,
there are generations, more than generations of messaging that our life is to be a hard worker. Like our life's purpose is to be a hard worker. And
yes,
leaving the job, leaving no matter how toxic the situation, is stripping
hmm,
of all of everything that we were born to be. I stand
yes,
by the I stand firmly in the idea that no one was born to be a hard worker. Hard work is no one's purpose. Hard work is no
yeah,
one's lot in life. I think if
yeah,
anyone gets that message, it's Black women that oh, hard work is
yes,
supposed, oh, like we've all been to funerals, and what they
yes,
she was such a hard worker, like, and now we're still here. She in the
yes,
grave, right? Hard
right.
is no one's purpose. I think,
Yes. And where's the joy? Right? Like, aren't we deserving of any level of joy in our lives? And that ministry, can
yeah,
we rest?
yes.
Right? So where is that in our lives? Are we just supposed to be workhorses? Number one, let's challenge that. Number
Let's
two,
challenge that, Kimani.
we deserve so much better. We deserve so much better. And the third thing I want to say too, because this is just the reality stuff.
Uh-huh.
You can make money other ways.
Yeah,
Staying at that toxic job is not the only place or only way you can make money.
no,
It's
no,
not.
no, it's not. And money
Mhm.
does not have to come from hardship and from hard work.
Yes.
There is such a thing as money coming from ease. Listen,
Yes.
I'm a witness, okay? I don't do a whole lot. I make five
Yes.
times what I made as a hospital pharmacy technician.
Yes.
There,
Yes. Yes.
there's a lot of, you talked about the inner child. There's a lot of inner child, like, repeat messaging, right, in our
Hmm.
brains about money and hard work that are just
Hmm.
false. We just don't know it.
Yes.
We don't know.
Yes.
Money
Yes.
doesn't have to be tied to hard work, that you don't even have to work. A lot of Black women, because of the whole, you got to work twice as hard to get half as much.
Hmm.
A lot of
Hmm.
Black women have financially put themselves in a position where they don't need to work anymore. They just they don't believe it, because, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm 50. 50-year-olds work. I don't understand. What else would I do? Uh,
Right.
yeah. Yeah,
And I think it's being okay with we can create our own realities
yeah.
now, right? So
Hmm.
we have some. I mean, some things in society are better, some things are not, but we have a lot more freedoms and a lot more options, and for us to exercise that, right? We didn't get all. You talk about Black excellence, right? We didn't do all of this to get to what? To where? To do what? No, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Sense. No sense. Yeah, right. So I'm glad to see that not only do you talk about this thing, right? Not only do you talk about leaving a toxic work environment and healing from it, but I'm so glad that
Yes.
you're doing it. I'm so glad that
I'm so glad I am too.
you're your
I'm so
greatest
glad too.
success.
I just feel like the lightness, right? And I just feel like being open now, right? And literally I start my day off and I say, God, please direct me in where you want me to go, right? And I'm listening and I'm obedient to where God is directing me.
Yeah.
And no matter who you believe in, right? Connect to your inner self. Your inner self will tell you where you need to be,
Yes.
right? And I think it's highly unlikely that anybody listening to this, that their inner self is saying, stay at that toxic job. You know what I'm saying? No.
No, not happening. Not happening. So you, when you were out on your 1 year leave, I think I answered my own. I was going to ask you like how long. I think we already talked about this. So you were out on your 1 year leave in order to set yourself up to come back and execute your exit plan.
I was doing my exit plan during the leave.
Hold on, I lost the sound. Hold on. It did it for 1 second earlier. So let's give it 1 second and then we'll go back.
Okay.
Okay, you're back. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I executed my exit plan when I was on my leave.
Okay. All
You know
right.
what I'm saying? So I was like, I kind of knew anyway, even before the leave, I wasn't coming back,
Okay.
right? But during the leave, just confirmed it, right? So I put the exit plan in full motion by that point, right? And I was able to kind of accelerate it because I got a coach to help me. And I think that's so important to get a coach to help you. I think at first I was very resistant to it. Like, I got this, I can figure this out, right? And thank goodness one of my good friends like, girl, get a coach. And I'm so thankful I did. I would have never been at where I am right now if I did not have that Black woman coach. Shout out to Dr. TK. You know what I'm saying? I would never would have gotten there. And now I have multiple Black women
You
coaches,
do.
right?
You do.
Because I understand still, right, the need for ongoing support. It's all good because I'm investing in myself and my growth and my ability to help other Black women.
That's right. There are no bonus points for doing things the hard way. I think some people live
It's
their life
not,
as if they are expecting to get some bonus points somewhere, but this is not
no.
Pac-Man or whatever. There's no, I don't know. I don't know what a video game is today. I know there's no bonus points for doing things the hard way. There's no bonus points for doing things alone. So you talked about why you're
Yeah,
a part of the reason why your program is a group coaching program. I happen to love group coaching, and it's because that community is priceless. It's
yes,
the cheat code, or it's the accelerator, or it's everything. It's everything.
it's everything.
And so women who are used to being in a toxic environment, right, would be the kind of woman who would be like, well, I'll have to do this on my own. I don't have support at
Yeah,
work. And so
yes,
I want to leave this situation. I'm going to have to do it on your own. But we're here to tell you, you do not. You do not. There are women
no,
out there who have raised their hand and said, "I'm gonna throw you a lifeline. Just hold on.
yeah.
Let me pull you.
Yeah,
I will pull you." Yeah,
yeah,
that's what coaching is.
yeah. And I think there's been a movement. I think there's a start of a movement right now, actually, because Dr. Carrie Azid was talking about Black women in toxic work environments. Minda Harts talks about it, Ready Within, and more Black women are talking about it. Even yesterday, I saw Roland Martin. Someone was on Roland Martin was talking about it. So more Black women are getting to the point where, like, no more,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
more.
Yeah, I think that the last 2 years you talked about the how George Floyd's murder impacted you and your idea, your vision of what was happening at your job, right? I think it
Yes,
was a very important time for Black
yeah,
women in the United States,
yeah.
and I think
Agreed.
that there's no turning back. I
Yeah,
don't, there's no turning back. We're not going back to
yeah,
the way things used to be. We're not going
yes.
back to being loyal to employers and jobs who are not loyal to us. Uh,
True.
we're not going back to being the burden bearer. We're not, there's no,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But the
And I
question
think
is, how are you going to make your way out? And the answer
yes.
is with support.
Support, yes. And I think also during COVID, I know for me, and I think for many other Black women, I would say for my clients also, it got to a point where, during COVID, it got really scary, for many people, right? And I know I looked at myself and I said, is this the life that I want for myself at that job?
Right.
I said, absolutely not. Right. And that helped me pivot. And I think it's important for Black women to really think about, is this the life that you want for yourself?
Mhm.
And if it's not, what do you need to do about that to make those changes?
I say some women who are too tired to figure out to even ask that question, take a break, right? Take a
Uh-huh.
break.
Uh-huh.
Radical, to take some radical
Gotta
action so
rest.
that you can, yeah, so radical rest so that you can figure it out, because you may not
Yes.
yet even know if this is the life you want for yourself or what you do want for yourself.
True.
Take a break.
True.
Take a break.
True.
It's a clarity bringer.
Yes.
Free time will give you some clarity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And get the Nat Ministry. Read that
Yeah.
book, right?
Yes. Yeah. Read Rest is Resistance, a manifesto
Yes.
by Tricia Hersey, who is the Nat Bishop,
Yes.
founder of the Nat
Yes.
Ministry. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And
I've been listening to it. It's
internalize
so
it.
soothing. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Read it as though she is talking to you because she is. She's
True.
talking to you.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Uh-huh. All right. So we've talked about what a toxic job looks like. We talked about the way out of a toxic job and the leaving and making an exit plan. Can we talk a little bit about the healing after? So we've talked about we have talked about the grieving and the
Mhm.
process and the fact that it's not an instantaneous change.
No.
You're not going to leave the
Yes.
job and just feel like, whew, I can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to know that. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes when we leave, we're like, why don't I feel, like you said, jubilant? Why am I not so excited?
Yeah.
Because you've just gone through a trauma. You've been traumatized. And trauma, dealing with trauma, takes a long time to get over, right?
Yes.
So there's different options to help address the trauma, right? So the coaching program that I have,
Mhm.
therapy. Of course, I'm a therapist, so
Mhm.
therapy. I know that I went through therapy when I was through this, right? And it was so helpful for me to be able to talk about the trauma. And part of trauma treatment is that the more you talk about it, the easier it is to talk about,
Okay.
right? Because I don't want Black women to go through these traumas and just not talk about it with anybody.
Right.
Okay. Now, there's therapists in terms of your insurance company, or if you want to find a Black therapist, there's different resources like Therapy for Black Girls, the Boris Henson Foundation. You go to Psychology Today to find Black therapists,
Okay.
but there are options. I don't want you to feel like I cannot talk about this with anybody.
Right.
Now, let me say this too, be mindful of who you share the information with. Like I talked about my mother, right? I love my mother,
Yeah.
but I knew that I could not talk to her about this because she had a very different perspective. So I chose who I share that with. So same with Black women who are watching this.
Mhm.
There might be certain people that you don't share certain information with, and that's okay. But my hope is that you do have people
Yes.
that you can talk to.
It's crucial. It's crucial.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
All right. So here you are, you're in the process of working through things, healing, and like starting an entirely new life, right? Like,
yes.
yeah. So what's next for you?
What's next for me is to continue with the coaching program. And I'm trying to do more coaching work. I still have my private practice with clients, but I just feel like my purpose in life is really to do whatever I can to support the healing of Black people, individually and collectively, right? Right now, I feel like the mission is particularly to help Black women out of toxic job because I don't feel like any of this happened by accident,
Okay.
right? Now, again, I would have never wanted to go through any of this,
Yeah.
but I feel that it really happened for a reason. And I think it happened because God knew that I was going to speak up about it,
Okay.
right? I wasn't just going to just scurry away like, oh, no, no, no. I'm going to speak up and speak out about it. And I really want to encourage other Black women to do that also. They don't have to be as vocal, but take charge of your own life and really live the life that you deserve
Mhm.
because we deserve so much better. We
Yes.
deserve so much better, right? And call in that joy, call in that rest, right? Work is not the definition of who we are. And I think moving away from that and dismissing that, rejecting that notion, that lie,
That's
that
right.
is a lie. That is not who we are.
That's a lie. If you cannot describe yourself or if you cannot say who you are outside of your work, that's a problem. That's not how
True,
it's supposed to
true,
be. You're not supposed to
true.
be all your identity is not supposed to be all wrapped in your work and your accomplishments at work, right?
Yes,
You should be a
yes,
whole person. You're
yes.
supposed to be a whole person. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I want to say too, Stephanie, that my greater vision too, in terms of where this is where I'm at now,
Yeah.
but my greater vision is that I want to be able to help more Black women who are in this similar situation, right? So only a select number of Black women can work with me through a coaching program, but I want to start doing workshops so I'm able to touch or impact more Black women because I want to show you a way out. And
Yeah.
I want you to see me and know I experienced the same things that you experienced, right? all the fears, all that stuff, all that sense like, you're not going to run me out of here. I'm going to show you all of that stuff. I had to go through all of it, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't worth it. It wasn't
No,
worth it.
no,
It wasn't worth my life.
there's no payoff. There's no
No,
payoff. So,
no.
okay, now I would like to coach you up for just a moment. Okay. So there is not there is, I am a person who thinks that there is an overemphasis on purpose among Black women.
Mm,
And
mm,
so I hope that what I want to caution you against in a loving way is feeling like the purpose you can become your own toxic employer, right?
mm.
Yeah, right. We can put ourselves in a situation where we're our own boss. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you are your boss. There's
Yeah,
still an employer, an employee. It's
yes,
just both
yes.
you,
True,
right? They're
true,
both you.
true,
And so you
true.
don't want to become the toxic boss to yourself. I think this is only my pondering. I think that women who are very purpose fueled have a tendency to then become a toxic boss to themselves. So
Mm,
I hope that you treat yourself, the employee, the way that you have not yet been able to be treated, right? Treat yourself, the employee, as the boss,
yeah,
right? Be
yeah.
be as good to the employee as you wish you had been treated in other situations. It's really easy. It's really easy for women who feel purpose driven to drive themselves back into the same toxicity that they were in before. My
Hmm.
word of caution. That's it,
Yes,
friend.
and I
That's
receive it.
it.
I receive it. I receive it. And I just want to say too that, part of my functioning, and I think that it might be because I'm a mental health professional, is I'm constantly self-assessing,
Yeah,
right? Like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling, right? And like doing what I need to do to help myself feel better.
good,
And I'm all about showing myself loving kindness,
good.
right?
Yes,
And like recognizing when I make a mistake, it's not like the end of the world,
good.
but I definitely receive that. And I hope that other Black women can see what's being modeled here is that we support one another as we're
Right.
growing,
That's right.
right? And that we're trying to support. It's not like we're trying to support one another in our growth. So
Yes.
I love that. I receive it.
Good. And you do look like a person who does know who is checked in with herself, right? You're
Yes.
smiling and you're glowing and you look great. So I think you're doing it right. I think you're doing it
Yes.
right. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. So one more time, let us know what, no, well, yeah, let's do this. Let us know, let women here who have heard the words that you said and really like their hearts are pounding. She is talking to me. Let them know
Yes.
where they can go to get more from you, to get more help from you, and to learn more from you.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so several options. One is if you're interested in a group program that I talked about, the Black Women Healing from Toxic Jobs group coaching program. The link will be in the description section. So just click the link. You can sign up and we can go from there, right? The cohort is going to start in February, okay, the beginning of February. So take fast action, right? Because I make the groups pretty small because I want people to be able to connect to one another, right? Once those slots are filled, then you'll go on the waiting list for the next round.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one option. The other option is if you're a Black woman, you're ready, like I'm all in. I don't want the group format. I want more individualized attention. Then there's another option for you on that same link. You can click the link, go down, read, and then click the option for the one-to-one option.
Okay.
If you are a Black woman who's like, I don't know where I'm at right now, I'm just stressed out. I hate my job, but I'm stressed out. I don't know what I want right now. Then there's a digital fillable workbook that I talked about, the Welcome to Your Queendom digital fillable workbook. And that will come straight to your email as soon as you purchase it. Okay. And again, click the link and it'll be right there as well. And I do have YouTube videos on my
Yes.
YouTube channel, Lifting Us with Climb Consulting Wellness Services, where I am very transparent about my own healing journey, right, in terms of a toxic job. And I've been interviewing Black women to talk about their healing journeys, not only in terms of their healing journeys, but also what to do.
Yes.
What do you do next, right? So tomorrow I'm interviewing S. Anne Marie Archer again, and we're going to be talking about the first steps. So when you recognize you ready to go, it's time to go, what are the first steps you need to do to get ready to go? Okay. So that will be tomorrow, well, Thursday. And if you missed that, then you can watch the replay on my YouTube channel if there's consulting on the services.
That's right, because we're not this. You guys, friends, y'all haven't you have not seen this video for several days after it was recorded. The interview with Anne Marie Archer will already be live over on Dr. Kimani's channel, which is Lifting as We Climb Consulting. Of course, I'm going to link to it in the description of this video. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, and then when you go over to watch the video, might as well make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any other stuff. Okay, because your interviews are really for women who feel isolated and feel alone. Your interviews are really like a nice lifeline to help them know that like you're not alone in this, and there are other women who are who have experiences and who are on the other side.
Yes, because I want you to know that you can make it on the other side. And I want you to know that healing is possible. It's painful, but it is possible. I want you to know that. And I want you to also know this. I want you to know that even though these things have happened to you, that you are not a victim. You're not a victim. The fact that you're still up, the fact that you're still looking for stuff, you're a victor. Okay. And I don't want us to internalize that sense of there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with that toxic environment. It's
That's
not you.
that's
Okay. Yeah.
that's right. It's the system. The system
It's
is
a
bad.
system. The
That's why
water's dirty.
the water is dirty. That's why we're getting up out of here. Do you have any plans?
Yes.
Do you have any move abroad plans? Have we talked about this?
No, not quite yet. I have been thinking about it though, the Caribbean. I have been thinking about it. Especially when you went to yeah.
I went to Curacao last winter.
Even Costa Rica. Even Costa Rica. I was like, that looks good.
I recommend it. I'm in Costa Rica right now. I recommend it. Okay. I recommend it.
I love it. And I think for any Black people, because I think well, I think it's really hard for us as Black people in America, just thinking like, where can we go to be safe?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No places are 100% safe, but America, it's just like literally every day you're like always looking around you.
We can do better. People are always like, oh, I would love to come to Costa Rica. Is it safe? I'm like, child, you live in St. Louis. Okay. You can make it anywhere. You can make it anywhere. Yes, it's safe. Yes, it's safe.
Yes,
But even
yes,
all jokes aside, like literally, it's safer when you leave the United States.
yeah,
Literally, Black people are safer when we leave the United States. There are not too many places in the world we can go and be in
yeah,
more danger. You know, doing
yeah,
regular everyday stuff. I'm not talking about cartel business. I'm talking about living
yeah,
your everyday life. There aren't too many places in the
yeah,
world we can go and be less safe and be less safe.
yeah,
Leave, we're safer, guaranteed,
yes.
almost guaranteed.
And
Guarantee it.
yeah, can I just say something too, Stephanie,
Of course.
about that? Because we're thinking about physical safety, right?
Right.
Like are we gonna be shot or something like that, right? But the psychological safety.
Yeah.
You know what
No,
I'm saying?
both. I mean that too.
Oh my God, this is psychological harm that we experience on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
It's so much.
That's right.
It's so much. And we have to think about as Black people, how are we healing on a daily basis, right? So how are we discharging all that angst, that anxiety, all that rest and connecting to our joy,
Yes.
right? We need to
That's
incorporate those things more often in our lives.
that's it. We live in fight or flight mode in the US,
Yes,
whether it's, with our employers, our neighbors, right? So just in general, we live in Black people, Black women in particular, have to live with the protective armor, and not just for our physical safety, for our emotional, for our psychological safety.
yes,
And
yes.
it is dangerous. It's just as toxic
Mhm.
as the toxic work environment. It's just as toxic as the physical toxin. Having to
Yes.
live your entire life in fight or flight mode is no way to live, and that's something
Yeah.
that you can let go of. This is why we talk this talk. It's something that you can let go of when you leave the United States and when you heal, right? Because it's
Yes.
possible to leave the U.S. and be the same person with the
Take all
same.
that stuff with you.
Yeah, take it all with you. What's
Yeah.
we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So
We reject that too.
See Dr. Kimani before you get to Costa Rica. Don't bring that stuff to
Yes.
Costa Rica. Don't do
Release it. Release it.
it. Let it go. Heal it. Heal it.
Yes.
All right. And do you think there's anything that we did not cover that you wanted to make sure that we covered before we close out?
I don't think so. I think we covered just about everything.
I think we nailed it. I think this was wonderful. It was
Yes.
wonderful talking with you. It's wonderful to get to hear your experience, your own personal experience, and how that informs you as a therapist and as a coach. I think a lot of
Yeah.
therapists don't get to talk about themselves, right? Probably.
True,
Yeah.
true. Well, we've been taught not to,
Yeah.
right? And that's challenging, and that's part of what I do in my work too, is I challenge the way that many therapists have been trained,
Right.
right? Because we've been trained in this very Eurocentric way of being. As
Ah,
Black people, that's not how we function.
that's
You know
right.
what I'm saying? Like, if I don't know you, if I don't trust you, I don't want to tell you my business, right? So I'm gonna tell you more about me so you know that I'm a good person, right? That you can trust me. And so, yes, I'm all about it.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing. Friends, of course, all of Dr. Kimani's links are in the description of this video, including her YouTube channel, her group coaching program, her Welcome to Your Queendom workbook. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you next in a couple weeks, end of the month.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Bye, friends.